Do you want to own whatever weapons you wish? Do you want to live in a society where only those deemed competent and mentally fit can acquire weapons? Do you want the threat of the government turning against the people to be a distant memory? Do you want the good people in your country to be able to level the playing field against bad guys with guns? Do you want any enemy nation to think more than twice about invading your country? Do you want to be part of the most powerful nation in the world? Do you want to live in the freest and safest country in the world? Do you want to join a local militia training with the latest weapons and tactics, whilst making friends and strengthening your community? Do you want to know that if anything goes wrong in your town, a group of highly trained and professional militia are ready to respond to any threat? Would you like to be one of those professionals? Would you like to shoot machine guns, drive tanks, fly jets, experience a battleship, all at your own pace and discretion? How would you like to become a real warrior, a modern knight of old, treated with respect, dignity, and gratitude? If you'd like to learn more, keep on watching and I'll explain the difference between a centralized, monopolized military and a private, decentralized militia inside of Utopian realism, a civilization's model based upon reason. Private, decentralized militia, the defense system of Utopian realism. The freest society in the world must be the most proficient at war. Utopian realism aims to build the most powerful, most dangerous societies the world has ever known. Today's militaries function as centralized command structures funded by terrorist activities. This monopolized military, comprising Army, Navy, Air Force, and sometimes Marines, represents only a small fraction, a tiny fraction of a nation's entire population. The quality of training can vary widely, ranging from disgraceful to professional. The problems with this system are legion. Any system which must survive by robbing those it swears to protect does not deserve to live. It's the enemy you need protecting from. Because its funding is not earned but stolen, it spends haphazardly and incompetently. I was in the Australian Army as an infantryman, and I witnessed this brutal stupidity firsthand. We had no funds for ammunition or high quality training, but plenty for enough food wastage to feed all 54 countries in Africa. Is that an exaggeration? Oh, I don't even know the amount of food waste. You go mad. Well, I went mad watching it. It was unbelievable. Our base security in Australia, in the Army, was handled by unarmed, unfit third-party contractors. We were told if a single gunman invades the base that we are to hide in the classrooms and call the police. Like, I'm trying not to feel a twinge of embarrassing disgrace within myself right now, because disgraceful doesn't capture the pathetic, humiliating, humbling nature of some militaries. A private militia, on the other hand, is funded by those who wish to participate and volunteer. And it's professional. It's run just like a normal business, as everything should be. Here's an example. An entrepreneur establishes a gun shop and shooting range, where customers purchase firearms and practice their skills. He profits, they enjoy their freedom, and become better equipped and trained to protect their liberty. Then, he expands and buys land and builds training facilities. He hires ex-military and offers infantry courses, sniper training, artillery instruction, and everything else you expect from standard militaries. Not just Army, but Air Force, Navy, Marines, all of it. People pay to complete these courses and receive training because they want to. The militia fund their own training, buy their own equipment, and as a result, everyone profits. There's no need to initiate violence and enslave a population to protect it. It's just so immature and childish. Such a small-minded level of thinking that the whole world is still raptured by. Enraptured. In Utopian realism, local militias exist in every town, just like gyms, supermarkets, or any other goods and service businesses. This creates jobs and stimulates local economies. It also greatly enhances not just individuals' defences, but a nation's. And by nation, I just mean a group of people in the same geographical area who share a similar culture and speak the same language. That's all I'm meaning by a nation. Not a group of patriotic, unquestioning, obedient fools serving a flag and ruling monopoly. I don't mean that. Local militias also help communities build connections, friendships, and increase life satisfaction. Attacking a country with a centralized military where less than 1% of the population is armed and defenses are concentrated in a few bases is vastly different from confronting a nation with a decentralized militia. In the latter, any invasion would encounter resistance from all corners, as many are armed and prepared to defend their homes. This widespread readiness is a strong deterrent against attacks, making it significantly more challenging for invaders to succeed, if not impossible, not even worth their time. Pros and cons of privatized militia versus centralized military. So bases in a private militia, you'd have bases in every town because it's a business model. In a centralized military, you only have a few bases across the entire country. Even a country as warmongering as America, still, they're going to have next to no bases compared to the amount of bases a decentralized, privatized militia would have. It's just a no comparison. The percentage of population well armed with a private militia, very high, possibly above 50%. With a centralized military, well, it's very low, less than 1%, even in America. By well armed, I mean with assault rifles, machine guns, sniper rifles, rocket launchers, because sure, handguns and rifles are useful for individual defense, but if an attacking enemy, a whole country of military comes in and invades, well, your standard 22, your 308, it's not going to do really anything against tanks and APCs and jets and Navy ships. You want bigger, more military-grade weapons. That's what I mean, well-armed. I go into more detail about that down below. Funding. Private militia, it's paid willingly by the militiamen. I know, I'd absolutely love to do that, and so many other people would love to join a militia. They'd be happy to buy their own guns, pay for their own training. It'd be such a fantastic experience. Centralized militia, military, well, no, that's stolen from the population. They don't earn a single dollar. Quality of training. Well, a privatized militia, it's going to be very high because there's competition, and that breeds and produces the best, as it always does in a free society. Best of everything, because it has to, otherwise they go out of business and someone else comes along and takes all the customers. In this case, militiamen. And women, of course, including them. Centralized military, while quality of training is going to differ highly from country to country and the division or the corps. For instance, Australia is, I wouldn't even say low, I'd say very low, the quality of training. Perhaps their special operations, their spec ops are higher. I haven't seen them personally firsthand, but I know for sure that the infantry is very, very low quality training. Pathetic. When we trained in New Caledonia with the French paratroopers and commandos, they made us look like amateurs. We would have stood no chance. 10 of them would have taken out thousands of us. We would have been obliterated in a day. And as I said, that was literally what we were told. If a gunman comes onto the base, hide in the classrooms under the table, call the police. Oh, it makes me so angry. I could write a whole book about that. I actually did when I was in the army, but moving on. There's little incentive to have good quality training in these militaries. I mean, there's obviously agendas to make these militaries as weak as possible. Pricing of equipment, privatise militia as cheap as possible because capitalism. So all the prices of your guns and ammunition, all kinds of weapons and vehicles to purchase would get much cheaper. Whereas with centralized militaries, it's as expensive as possible because these companies, they can get away with it. They charge governments ludicrous prices because the government doesn't earn any of their money. They just steal it. So they go, whatever, we'll pay 10 times the normal rate. Who cares? Or we just won't buy any equipment. Like in Australia, I heard that all the time. I'd always say, why aren't we doing anything? We're literally not doing anything. We're not training. We're sitting in a classroom, falling asleep, or playing games on the computer, if we were lucky. Why aren't we training? Oh, we've got no funds. Are you serious? The amount of money they would waste on food, furniture, all this other garbage, which we did not need. Controlling the rage right now is taking a lot of self-control. Leadership structure. Oh, don't get me started on that. Private militia. It's going to be decentralized and governed by respect and merit. You need to earn your rank. Whereas with militaries of today, it's centralized leadership structure and it's governed by unquestioning obedience and ass licking. The dumber you are, the higher the rank you get. That's a fact. I saw that firsthand. It would be such a rarity to get someone who was competent in a position of power. I saw it maybe, I can only think of one time I actually ever saw that. Ability to innovate and access to latest hardware. Private militia, there are no restrictions or policies to prevent technological advancement and are actually incentivized by profit to continuously produce better hardware because people will want to buy the next and latest gun or body armor or tank or whatever it is. Whereas with centralized militaries, and again, depending on the country, updating technology is very slow, unorganized, and inefficient. There's those sayings about the Australian army. It's like you give anyone of rank there a fistful of 50s. Give them so much cash that's overflowing and send them to a brothel. They still won't be able to organize a route. Or put them in a clock factory. They'll have no idea what the time is. The level of inefficiency and unorganization in the Australian army, you wouldn't believe me. Like, you just can't believe me. You can't believe it until you experience it. And I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy, to experience how bad the Australian army is. I honestly wouldn't. It's torture. If you're intelligent and rational, it's absolute torture. If you're just an order-following, unthinking, unquestioning automaton, well, you don't know any difference. Gun safety, privatized militia. It is high because it requires certificates of competency. You need to be trained on how to use these weapons before you can purchase them. And psychological evaluations required to get these guns because you may be very competent but mentally unstable just for the time being. Maybe you went through a breakup or your parents died or something terrible happened and it's like, well, you're not fit to hold a gun right at this moment. There's more detail below as well. Centralized military, low. When I got my gun license in Australia, it was past a little theory test. There was no practical test to see if I could actually use a gun. There was no psych eval. Oh yeah, just do a 15-minute theory. Here, go buy a gun now. Are you kidding me? Is that a joke? Like, that has to be a joke. But it's not funny. It's the least funny joke in the world. The gun safety in that country disgusts me. And I can only really relate to gun safety in Australia because that's where I've lived and I've purchased guns. Other countries, I've heard that there's better gun safety, like Switzerland, for example. That seems like a very good country where they have a very high, lots of guns, very low crime, lots of training on how to use these guns, better gun safety, which is good. But I think what they do in Switzerland is they force you to join the military, which is obviously abysmal, and that is an enemy of freedom, and that system should be destroyed. Morale of troops, privatized militia. Well, it's very high because the soldiers are going to be treated with respect and dignity. Whereas in centralized militaries, the amount of suicides, it's ridiculous. I mean, when I was in the army, there wasn't heaps. I could probably count on one or two hands how many suicides there were, but still far too many. Because there's constant disrespect and belittling, and it erodes soldiers' sense of self-worth. You're trained to be an obedient, humble piece of shit, because then you don't question, you don't think, you don't have any initiative, and you just die when you're told to. And that it produces weak soldiers, weak fighting forces that are ripe to be destroyed without effort. Response speed, privatized militia. Well, it's going to be fast because there are bases everywhere and decentralized operations can respond very quickly to threats. Whereas with a centralized military, it's slow. The organization takes such a long time and troops are clueless without direction from head command. Ranking system. Based upon merit and elections. And I go into that in more detail soon. Whereas in centralized militaries, it's based upon sycophancy, obedience and superiors' decisions. Sycophancy is a fancy word for ass-licking, and not the good kind, definitely not the good kind. So I forgot to mention at the start of this video, I'm going to break militia up into 3 videos. So that was the first one covered. Just to go over again, it was just a basic overview of what a private decentralized militia is, looking at some pros and cons versus a privatized militia versus a centralized military. The next video, we're going to be going over more detail about the rank, leadership and organization, how that works, how it can be flexible and be decentralized and centralized when the time comes, which is very useful. And then in the video after that, in the third part, we will look at weapons and defense against threats. So I hope you're enjoying this so far, because I am having the time of my life sharing this information. Because it's great fun. It's great fun. It's very enjoyable. And when you think about it for a while, it really becomes so simple. And the way I see this now, it's a much more powerful system than the militaries we have of today. And I think this would be a great idea for any country to adopt a system like this of utopian realism, where essentially all you're doing is organizing men to defend each other and their women and their children of a geographical area. And it's just all based upon objective reality and reason. That's all you're doing. Really, that's what everything comes back to. You're not initiating any physical force against anyone. It's all just retaliatory. You're just being reasonable, logical, objective. That's it. And then you end up with systems that are just better than anything else that's irrational, faith-based, emotional, and nonsensical, based upon these silly, childish, immature games of power. This is not like that. This is for grown-ups, for mature men and women who want to be sensible and rational. So I'll see you in the next video, where we'll be looking at rank and leadership and organization. Okay, I'll see you then. Bye.